The abandoned mining station floated silently in the void between Mars and Jupiter. To the Kraxan Empire, it appeared to be the perfect ambush point, a seemingly helpless human outpost, isolated and vulnerable. Commander Vex studied the tactical display aboard his warship, his four arms moving in satisfaction. The humans had grown careless, leaving their supply routes exposed. "Sir, the human vessel approaches," reported his lieutenant. "Single cargo freighter, minimal weapons, following standard shipping lane Delta 7. Vex's mandibles clicked in anticipation. For 3 years, the Kraxan Empire had been probing human defenses, testing their reactions. Each raid had been successful. Each attack had shown human weakness. They were soft, these humans, too focused on their trade routes and colonies to properly defend themselves. "Deploy the fleet," Vex commanded. "Surround the station. When the freighter arrives for resupply, we strike." 20 Kraxan warships emerged from their cloaking fields, forming a perfect sphere around the mining station. Their weapons charged, shields raised, ready to destroy both the station and the incoming ship. It would be another glorious victory. Another step toward conquering the human territories. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the cargo freighter, Hope's End, watching his sensors light up with enemy contacts. His crew remained remarkably calm, going about their duties with practiced efficiency. Miller pressed a single button on his command console. "Phase 1 complete," he said into the communicator. They took the bait. The mining station suddenly erupted with activity. What the Kraxans had dismissed as simple mining equipment began to unfold, revealing massive defensive platforms. Hidden compartments opened across the station's hull, deploying weapon systems that shouldn't exist on a civilian installation. The asteroid field nearby shimmered as hundreds of human fighters dropped their stealth fields. But Vex wasn't concerned. Even with these hidden forces, his fleet still held superiority. 20 warships against one station and some fighters? The odds remained in his favor. What he didn't know was that the humans had been planning this moment for 2 years. Every Kraxan raid had been carefully observed, their tactics studied, their technology analyzed. Admiral Kate Ross had proposed something unprecedented in human military doctrine. Instead of defending against raids, they would create the perfect trap by appearing weak exactly where the enemy expected it. The cargo freighter, Hope's End, began to change. Its hull plating shifted and reconfigured, revealing itself as the newest human battlecruiser, equipped with experimental weapons developed specifically to counter Kraxan shields. Captain Miller smiled grimly as his ship's true nature was revealed. "All units, execute counter-strike protocol." Admiral Ross's voice echoed across the human fleet's communications. The asteroid field came alive. What the Kraxans had scanned as normal space rocks were actually hollowed out and converted into missile platforms, each one packed with thousands of micro-warheads. The mining station's defensive platforms were actually gravity well generators, designed to trap the Kraxan fleet in place. Vex realized too late what had happened. His fleet, positioned to prevent escape from the station, had formed the perfect target formation. They were clustered together, their ships arranged to maximize their firepower inward, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from the outside. "It's a trap!" His lieutenant screamed, but the warning came too late. The human forces struck simultaneously from every direction. The fighters weren't ordinary fighters, they were drone carriers, each one deploying dozens of AI-controlled attack units. The battle cruiser's experimental weapons punched through Kraxan shields like paper. The gravity wells prevented any escape to hyperspace, but the humans' true genius wasn't in their weapons or tactics. It was in their patience. They had deliberately lost small skirmishes, sacrificed outposts, and appeared weak, all to create this moment. Every Kraxan victory had been carefully orchestrated to build their confidence, to make them believe humans were easy prey. As the first Kraxan warship exploded, Vex understood the terrible truth. The humans hadn't been defending poorly. They had been learning. Every raid had taught them more about Kraxan technology, tactics, and psychology. And now, in this carefully crafted killing field, all that knowledge was being put to devastating use. The trap had been set not with technology or firepower, but with the one thing the Kraxans never expected from humans: the willingness to appear weak in order to strike from a position of hidden strength. Commander. Vex watched his tactical display in horror as his fleet's formation crumbled. The humans had turned their greatest strength, their aggressive positioning, into a fatal weakness. His warships, arranged to prevent any escape from the mining station, now found themselves unable to maneuver without risking collision with each other. Break formation. Vex roared, but the gravity wells held his ships in place like insects in amber. Captain. Miller coordinated the human attack with ruthless precision. Strike teams Alpha through Delta. Target their command ships. Echo and Foxtrot. Disable their communications array. The human fighters moved unlike anything the Kraxans had encountered before. Instead of individual pilots making decisions, they operated as a single collective mind, their AI systems sharing data instantaneously. When one fighter detected a weakness in a Kraxan shield, all fighters knew about it within milliseconds. Lieutenant Commander Tom Wilson led the assault from the mining station's command center. The station itself was a masterpiece of deception. Its mining equipment had been real, actually extracting resources for months, but every piece had been designed with a dual purpose. The drilling lasers could punch through ship armor. The ore processors contained missile launchers. Even the crew quarters were fake, hiding electronic warfare suites. "Sir, they're jamming our communications," a Kraxan officer reported to Vex. "We can't coordinate with the fleet." The human electronic warfare was unlike their previous encounters. Instead of trying to overpower Kraxan systems with brute force, they used surgical precision, targeting specific frequencies and protocols that they had learned from analyzing captured equipment. Every past raid had provided them with more data, more understanding. Admiral Ross watched from her hidden command ship, positioned just outside the engagement zone. She had waited 2 years for this moment, enduring criticism from Earth's government for her apparent failures. They called her strategy Project Possum, playing dead to draw in the predator. "Phase 2 initiated," she announced. "Release the nanoswarm." From the cargo containers that Hope's End had supposedly been carrying, clouds of microscopic machines erupted. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense, they were builders. Within seconds, they began constructing energy barriers between Kraxan ships, further boxing them in. The trap was becoming a cage. Vex's second-in-command Sub-Commander Tor tried to rally their forces. "Target the mining station. If we destroy it, the gravity wells will fail." But as the Kraxan weapons fired, the station revealed another surprise. Its entire hull was covered in reactive armor that absorbed energy weapons and converted them into power for its own shields. The humans had studied Kraxan weapon signatures for months, designing defenses specifically calibrated to their attack frequencies. The psychological warfare was equally devastating. The humans broadcast recordings of every previous Kraxan raid, but with commentary explaining how each victory had been allowed to happen, how each weakness had been deliberately shown. The Kraxan warriors, who prided themselves on their martial prowess, realized they had been treated like children being allowed to win at games. Captain Miller's battlecruiser moved through the chaos with deadly grace. Its experimental weapons, plasma lances designed to resonate at the exact frequency of Kraxan shield generators, carved through enemy ships with surgical precision. But Miller wasn't aiming to destroy. He was aiming to disable. The humans wanted prisoners, wanted intact technology, wanted to send a message. "Fleet Commander Vex," Miller's voice broke through the jamming, broadcasting on all Kraxan emergency frequencies. "You have 2 options. Surrender now, or watch your entire fleet be systematically dismantled. You came here thinking you were the hunters. But humans have been hunting predators since before. We left our caves. The human fighters demonstrated their superiority by performing maneuvers that should have been impossible synchronized attacks that required split-second timing across hundreds of units. They disabled weapon systems without destroying ships, crippled engines without causing core breaches. It was a display of controlled violence that was somehow more terrifying than total destruction. Vex watched as ship after ship in his fleet sent distress signals. The humans weren't just winning. They were winning easily, almost casually. Everything the Kraxans did had been anticipated, planned for, countered before they could even try it. The mining station's true commander, Colonel David Brown, had been living there for 8 months, pretending to be a simple administrator while secretly coordinating the most complex ambush in human military history. Every supply ship, every maintenance request, every routine communication had been part of the deception. As the 10th Kraxan warship fell silent, its systems disabled but crew alive, Vex began to understand the full scope of what had happened. This wasn't just a trap, it was a complete reversal of everything the Kraxans believed about humanity. Commander Tor desperately tried to adapt their tactics as the human assault continued. The Kraxan Empire's technology had always been superior, their shields stronger, their weapons more powerful, their ships faster. But none of that mattered now. The humans hadn't tried to match their technology. They had simply learned to break it. Shield frequency rotating. Tor commanded. Random modulation pattern. But the human weapons adapted instantly. Every shot from Miller's battlecruiser found its mark, the plasma lances somehow anticipating each frequency change. What Tor didn't know was that the humans had spent 6 months analyzing a captured Kraxan fighter, discovering that their random pattern wasn't truly random. It followed a complex, but predictable algorithm. Dr. James Park, the scientist who had cracked the Kraxan shield code, watched from the battle cruiser's research bay. His team had reverse-engineered not just the technology, but the entire Kraxan approach to warfare. They built their systems for dominance, for overwhelming force. Humans had built their counters for efficiency and adaptation. Deploy the virus, Park told his team, through the data streams that connected the Kraxan fleet. A carefully crafted piece of code began to spread. It wasn't malicious in the traditional sense. It didn't destroy or corrupt. Instead, it learned, adapted, and slowly took control. Every time a Kraxan system tried to purge it, it evolved, using the ship's own defensive protocols against itself. Commander Vex watched his command console flicker as human code infiltrated his systems. Text appeared on his screen in perfect Kraxan script. Your technology is impressive. Thank you for the lessons. The mining station revealed its final secret. The asteroids around it began to move, not randomly, but in precise formation. Each one had been hollowed out and equipped with engines over the past year, turning the entire asteroid field into a mobile fortress. The Kraxans had walked into more than a trap. They had entered a carefully prepared killing field, where even the terrain was weaponized. Lieutenant Anna White coordinated the drone fighters from her neural interface. The technology was new, experimental, and slightly dangerous direct human-AI integration that allowed a single person to control hundreds of units simultaneously. The Kraxans had always dismissed humans as too individualistic to fight as a unified force. They hadn't anticipated humans would merge with their machines to overcome that limitation. Neural load at 70%, her technician warned. I can handle it, White replied. Her consciousness spread across the battlefield. Through 1,000 electronic eyes, she saw every angle, every weakness, every opportunity. The drone fighters moved like a school of fish, each one an extension of her will. The Kraxan warship, pride of victory, tried to break free from the gravity, well through sheer engine power. Its massive drives, capable of pushing the ship to near light speed, strained against the invisible bonds. But the humans had anticipated this too. The gravity wells didn't just pull, they oscillated, creating waves that turned the ship's own power against itself. The harder it pushed, the more violently it was shaken. Captain Miller revealed the battlecruiser's ultimate weapon. The ship's entire hull began to glow as it charged what the humans called Cascade Cannon, a weapon that fired not energy or projectiles, but coordinated electromagnetic pulses that caused cascade failures in enemy systems. One shot could disable a ship without killing a single crew member. "Sir, they're not trying to destroy us," Tor realized with growing horror. "They're trying to capture the entire fleet intact." Vex's mandibles clicked in disbelief. The tactical implications were staggering. 20 Kraxan warships, their crews, their technology, all delivered into human hands. The intelligence coup alone would shift the balance of power. But more than that, it was a message to the entire Kraxan Empire. Humanity could defeat them without even needing to kill them. The human nanoswarm had completed its construction. Energy barriers now divided the battlefield into segments, isolating groups of Kraxan ships from each other. The humans could defeat them piecemeal, taking their time, minimizing their own casualties, while maximizing enemy captures. Admiral Ross authorized the next phase. Deploy the Ambassador Protocol. From the battlecruiser, a small shuttle launched. It carried no weapons, no shields, just a single human diplomat and a message. The shuttle flew directly toward Vex's command ship, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Commander Vex, I am Ambassador Robert Jones. I'm coming aboard to discuss terms. You can shoot me down, but that won't change your situation. Let's talk like civilized beings." The audacity of it, sending an unarmed diplomat into the middle of a battle, perfectly encapsulated humanity's confidence. They weren't just winning. They were so certain of victory that they could afford to be diplomatic about it. Ambassador Robert Jones stood in the airlock of Commander Vex's warship, unarmed and unarmored. The Kraxan warriors who escorted him to the bridge towered over him, their weapons trained on his back, but Jones walked with calm confidence. He had volunteered for this role, understanding that his life was secondary to the message he carried. "Commander Vex," Jones said, offering a gesture of respect from ancient Earth, a slight bow. "Thank you for allowing me aboard." Vex's forearms twitched with barely controlled rage. "You dare board my ship in the middle of battle?" "The battle is over, Commander," Jones replied simply. "Your fleet is disabled. 60% of your ships have lost primary power. Your communications are jammed. Your escape routes are blocked. But notice your life support systems work perfectly. Your crew quarters are untouched. We could have destroyed you all, but we chose not to." Through the bridge viewports, Vex could see the truth of Jones's words. His proud fleet hung helpless in space, surrounded by human forces that had stopped firing the moment the shuttle launched. It was a display of control that was more intimidating than any weapon. Admiral Ross's voice came through the bridge speakers, having overridden the Kraxan security systems. "Commander Vex, every ship in your fleet is being broadcast this conversation. Your entire crew is witnessing this moment. What happens next is your choice." Jones opened a small device, projecting a holographic display. It showed not battle plans or weapon specifications, but something far more devastating, a complete analysis of Kraxan society, psychology, and military doctrine, compiled from years of observation and captured intelligence. "You believe in strength through dominance," Jones explained. "Your entire civilization is built on the principle that the strong must rule the weak. For 3 years, you've raided our colonies because you thought we were weak. But strength isn't just about weapons or ships. Sometimes strength is patience. Sometimes it's intelligence. And sometimes it's mercy. The hologram shifted, showing footage from every Kraxan raid. But now, with commentary, pointing out every deliberately exposed weakness, every allowed victory, every piece of bait that had been taken. The Kraxan warriors on the bridge shifted uncomfortably as they realized the extent of the deception. Asterisk. Your empire has 200 warships, Jones continued. We've captured 20 of them here, intact. We have your technology, your protocols, your crew manifests. If you force us to, we can build specific counters to every ship in your fleet. But we don't want to. Vex's lieutenant, Tor, spoke up despite protocol. Then what do you want, human? Jones smiled a gesture that the Kraxans had learned to interpret. We want you to carry a message back to your empire. Humanity doesn't seek war, but we excel at it when forced. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages, predators, diseases, and each other. We learned to turn every disadvantage into an advantage, every threat into an opportunity. The human fighters began performing complex maneuvers around the disabled Kraxan ships, not threatening, but demonstrative. They spelled out words in Kraxan script, peace and choice and future. Captain Miller's voice joined the broadcast. Commander Vex, we're offering you something your empire rarely gives a second chance. Take your surviving ships and return to your space. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that humanity offers two paths, peaceful coexistence or the complete dismantling of your military capability. Jones produced a data tablet, offering it to Vex. This contains our terms. A non-aggression pact, trade agreements, technology exchanges. Your empire can grow through cooperation instead of conquest. Or ... double quotes, he paused. You can continue raiding, and we'll be forced to demonstrate that this ambush was us being gentle. The mining station began to transform again, but this time into something else, a space station designed for diplomacy, with docking ports that could accommodate both human and Kraxan ships. It had been the plan all along, to turn a battlefield into a bridge between civilizations. Sub-Commander Tor looked at the tactical display, running calculations. Even with their surviving ships, even if they escaped, the intelligence the humans had gained would make future raids suicidal. The Kraxan Empire's entire military doctrine would need to be rebuilt from scratch. You planned this for years, Vex said, his voice carrying a mixture of rage and respect. Actually, Jones corrected, we started planning this the day you made your first raid. Every species has a choice in how they interact with the universe. You chose to be predators. We chose to be something more dangerous. We chose to be human. Asterisk Commander Vex stood in silence for a long moment, his forearms gradually lowering from their aggressive stance. Around him, his bridge crew watched their commander struggle with a decision that would define the future of Kraxan-human relations. The weight of 20 captured warships and thousands of Kraxan lives rested on his response. You speak of mercy, Vex finally said, his mandibles clicking slowly. But this was not mercy. This was humiliation. Jones shook his head. No, Commander. Humiliation would be sending your crews back in escape pods while we kept your ships. Humiliation would be broadcasting your defeat across the galaxy. We're offering you the chance to return with your ships, your crew, and most importantly, your knowledge of what humanity is truly capable of. The data tablet in Vex's grasp contained more than just terms. It held detailed technical specifications that the humans had learned from studying Kraxan technology, improvements they had developed, and offers to share human innovations in return. It wasn't just a peace treaty. It was an invitation to evolve beyond conquest, Admiral Ross authorized the release of the first gravity well. One Kraxon destroyer, the least damaged of the fleet, suddenly found itself free to move. A gesture of good faith, Commander. That ship is fully functional. You could run or fight, or the destroyer's captain immediately powered weapons. But Vex's voice boomed across the fleet communications. Stand down. All ships, weapons to standby mode. Through the bridge windows, the human forces began to pull back, creating corridors of escape for the Kraxan fleet. But they maintained their positions, ready to resume the battle if necessary. The message was clear. We're allowing you to leave, not forcing you to stay. Lieutenant Anna White, still connected to the drone network, felt the collective consciousness of hundreds of AI units processing the moment. Through their sensors, she watched as Kraxung warriors throughout the fleet struggled with their ingrained beliefs. They were warriors who had never been so thoroughly defeated, yet also never been shown such calculated restraint by an enemy. Dr. Park transmitted one final piece of data to the Kraxan. Ship's medical information, showing how human scientists had developed treatments for a plague that had ravaged Kraxan colonies years ago. The cure had been ready for months, waiting for the right moment to reveal that humans had been studying Kraxans not just for war, but for understanding. Your people are dying from the red scale plague, Jones said quietly. We can help, but only if we're not shooting at each other. Sub-Commander Tor examined the medical data on his console. The science was sound, the cure elegant in its simplicity. It would save millions of Kraxan lives. He looked at his commander with all four eyes. Sir, they could have used this as a weapon. Released a modified version of the plague. Instead, Instead, they offer healing. Vex completed the thought. The mining station completed its transformation into a diplomatic center. Its newly revealed sections gleaming with lights that spelled welcome in both human and Kraxan languages. It was a statement of intent. This battleground would become a meeting ground. Captain Miller made a final demonstration. His battlecruiser's Cascade cannon, the weapon that had disabled so many Kraxan ships, fired once more. But this time, instead of targeting the enemy, it fired into empty space, creating a spectacular light display, a human tradition called fireworks, adapted for the vacuum of space. Beauty from a weapon of war. Commander, Jones said, there's an Earth saying, the best revenge is success. We don't need to destroy you to prove our strength. We'd rather profit from peace than pay for war. Your empire controls resources we need. We have technologies you want. Together, we could build something greater than either could alone. Vex looked at the data tablet again. The trade agreements would actually benefit the Kraxan Empire more than continued raiding. The technology exchanges would advance both civilizations. The medical assistance would save lives. It was, by every logical measure, the better choice. If we agree to this, Vex said slowly, the other species will see the Kraxan Empire as weak. No, Jones corrected. They'll see you as wise. Strong enough to fight, smart enough not to. That's true strength. The entire human fleet suddenly transmitted a single message. In perfect unison, in perfect Kraxan. Warriors choose their battles. The wise choose their allies. Vex made his decision. He pressed his command seal to the data tablet, officially accepting the terms. The Kraxan Empire will consider your proposal. We will carry your message to the High Command. As the gravity wells released the remaining Kraxan ships, Admiral Ross gave the order that would be remembered in history. All human forces, stand down. Provide aid to any Kraxan vessel requesting assistance. Today, we end a war before it truly begins. The counterstrike was complete, not through destruction, but through demonstration. Humanity had shown that what appeared to be their weakness was actually their greatest strength. the ability to think beyond simple victory to lasting peace. The end asterisk.